So as we enter the color section of the class, I want to just quickly discuss how I select color in Photoshop. So if you've looked down here yet in your toolbar, you should see these little boxes. And right now I have a white box on top of a white box. This black box on top of a white box, this is like a quick reset button. So if you just get to the point where you just want pen and you just want to write with a black pen, just click this and it will automatically switch your brush back to just black color state. So this is kind of like a quick change button to change back to drawing mode. So this bottom box, this white box, is a controller for the background color. I never actually change that. Like I never ever touch that. I'm always touching and changing the top box. The top box is what you're painting with and what you're gonna put on the page. So most commonly what I'm doing is I'm double clicking on this box. It pops up this color picker, okay? And you can change the color options that you have by moving these arrows up into different hues. So this is how you change the hue that you're picking, okay, by sliding this thing. And within these box, you can pick any shade that you want. And if you select that area, it's going, and you hit OK, it's going to reset your brush to paint in that color. So just again, quick, to change hue, you're sliding these two arrows or just clicking on a point. If you want green, pick it here, and then you can select sort of any tint of green. Okay. Now changing what we call tint, which is adding more white or adding more black to the color. It can also be accessed in this box. So again, if you want to select a red, but you want to change the tint of the red, up here in this corner is going to have no white and no black mixed in. It's just pure red. As you move more and more to the left, you're adding more and more and more white paint into that red pigment. As you move down, you're adding more and more and more black paint mixed in to that. And this is called changing the tint. So this would be a red that has been tinted with a lot of black in it. Now, just like drawing, one of the things that I'm changing all the time in color painting is the opacity of my brushes. And you could envision this as, again, if you actually have experience with painting, you can envision this as a scenario where you're adding water or like a paint thinner to your paint. And so as I reduce the opacity, I'm essentially like weakening the paint by adding water to it. And then your paintings become more like watercolors. And we should have experience with this because of our gray washes, but I usually do this a lot. Another very, very, very common thing that I'm doing is, so I might decide, okay, an object is going to be like a green. And so what I'll do is I will lay sort of like a layer, and I will lay like the base pigment, the base hue for that object. And then I would stack different colors with weakened opacity on top of this. Or I might change the tint very, very commonly on this by, for instance, if I want to add highlights, I would change my brush to white, reduce the opacity, and then as I paint here now, I'm changing the tint. I do this all the time. Or you could do this with black. Again, changing the tint of that green through what we call like the gray wash technique. I do this all the time to reach different tonalities. Now you can really like customize your Photoshop window layout, and you can like set up color palettes that you're working with over here. I usually don't do that. Oftentimes what I most commonly do is I'll sort of like pick a reference color palette that I'm working around. So I might pick a particular color palette that I like by just Googling, finding something. And oftentimes you can collect color palettes. So if you sort of have like it like this, if you have like an image like this that you really like, and you say to yourself like, I really like the tonalities and the colors in this particular image, you can draw colors from that to create your own color palette. Okay, so envision that this was a color palette that I particularly liked. And this has been constructed from this image, and I will do this. So oftentimes what you'll do, the way to do this, and this is most commonly the way that I'm selecting color, is if you have your brush tool, selected, there's another tool that goes hand in hand with the brush tool called the eyedropper. Okay, it's this thing right here. In some keyboards it's E, in some keyboards it's I, and this one it's I. And as I'm painting, I'll often select the eyedropper tool. Okay, and this is a tool that selects color by clicking on an area where you like the color. So for instance, if you really liked this shade of pink, you click that and it instantly pulls that color into your brush, and then you can paint that color into like a box to collect that as and sort of build up your color palette. So again, if you want to like construct a reference color palette from some particular combination that you like or some particular structure or image that you like, again, all you need to do is select the eyedropper tool, find the color you want to capture, click on it, it will automatically select that color into your brush, and you can sort of lay that pigment on a layer, which you can always then come back to it. So you can now imagine that if I was painting on this image and I needed to go back to that exact shade of pink, I can always just click the eyedropper, go back to it, and I instantly have recaptured that color. This is most commonly how I'm selecting color. The other thing is, if you have your brush tool selected, if you just hold the Alt key, it should automatically also bring up that eyedropper. And this might be different on different versions of Photoshop, but if you just hold Alt, it pulls up that eyedropper, and you can collect those colors. So as you think about color, and as we move into the stage of the class where we begin painting and adding color to our images, what I would really encourage you to do is collect the colors that you really like and collect colors that go well together. Just like the Tom Sachs video pointed out on color, you collect these colors that you like, that you feel are most representative and a good quality, and then you can always come back to those because you sort of have these saved color palettes that you like. It's a really good strategy long term.